Yavadi paschatya deshatarine vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavan ebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone to our ongoing study of the Sri Isopanisad at the level of Bhakti Sastri. And today we are beginning mantra number 17. Right? We have heard the first 3 mantras explained how Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor and how everything belongs to him. And we are expected to only take our quota and not to take more. And when we do that, then we will have a long life. We can have a long life. But if we don't follow that plan, if we don't follow that arrangement of the Lord, then we will enter into the darkest regions of ignorance. Our life will be very inauspicious. So then, after the first section about the proprietorship of the Lord, the next section, mantras 4 up to mantra 8, described the vision of the Mahabhagavat devotee, the great devotee, how they see all living entities as parts and parcels of the Lord. They see them as being one with the Lord. We gave the phrase ekatvam anupashyataha, right? Oneness in quality, but different in quantity. So the Mahabhagavat devotee, he can see this, he can understand the relationship between the Lord.
Guru Maharaj is at your house, blessing you all.
Is everything okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
I can continue? Yeah?
Yes, Maharaj.
I just wanted to give a quick summary of what we've been covering, the structure of the book, Isopanisad. So mantras 4 to 8 describe about the vision of the Mahabhagavat devotee and seeing the Supreme Lord and how the living entities are one in quality, but different in quantity. Then the next section was describing the relationship between the absolute and the relative. Mantras 9, 10, and 11 describe the absolute and the relative in terms of knowledge, and then 12, 13, and 14 describe the absolute and the relative in terms of worship. And we spoke about the danger of cultivating material knowledge without having proper spiritual education, how it can lead to a very dangerous situation for the world. And then we spoke about different kinds of worship, how people sometimes they create their own forms of worship, and how there's also a lot of people, they take to the impersonal philosophy and they deny the personal existence of God. They think ultimately God cannot have any form. So we spoke about these different philosophies. We described them as miseducators, or people who are they're speaking philosophy, but they're speaking philosophy which is not really authorized, which is not the proper authorized philosophy, which does not come in the disciplic succession. So we spoke about these things, about the impersonalists and the voidists, and we spoke about the Maya Aparita Jnana and the Vedavadarata, these kind of people, and how they mislead others into dangerous, into darkness, in ignorance. Right? Then we went on, mantra 15 and 16 were beginning the prayers to the Lord and asking the Lord to remove the dazzling effulgence. The devotee was desiring to see the personal form of the Lord. So the Isopanisad was describing how the Lord is personal and he has a form. And the devotee wants to see that form, he wants to realize that form. But in order to see that form of the Lord, he has to become pure in devotion. He has to get rid of all of his material desires and attachments. So he has to go through this Brahmajyoti, the impersonal void. He has to go through that impersonal void and come to the oneness, come to the spiritual planets, go through the oneness and come to the spiritual planets, Vaikuntha or Goloka, spiritual planets. So we're going to go on now and we'll hear how the devotee offers prayers to the Lord, desiring to achieve that destination. Are there any questions from anyone before we go on? Okay, if there are no questions, then we will continue. Would one of the gentlemen, one of our Prabhus, like to read the Sanskrit for us? Mantra 17.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Vayuranilam Amrutam
Vayuranilam Amrutam
Athedam Bhasmantam Sariram
Adidam Bhashmantam Shariram
Om Kratosmar Krutam Smara
Om
Om Krato Smara Kratam Smara
Kratosmara Krutam Smara
Krato Smara Krutam Smara.
And translation?
Let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
So, have you made a lot of sacrifices, Prabhu? Have you made a lot of sacrifices?
Not really, Maharaj.
No?
I've done only all the wrong things only.
Are you going to pray to the Lord like this? What are you going to? Please remember all I have done for you. Have you done a lot for the Lord that He should remember?
At least we request Lord that whatever good thing I have done, He feel like that I have done that is good. Then He can help us. We pray for that mercy.
Okay. Yes, if you've done something good, that will help us. Anyway, you studied this Bhakti Sastri. This is good. Help you. You can remember the Lord. You did this Bhakti Sastri for the pleasure of the Lord, for pleasure of Lord Krishna. You studied the Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures, Isopanisad. Very nice. Go ahead, read the purport.
Hare Krishna. The temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2.2 clearly says that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless and that takes a shape according to the form of the indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless or is wrongly taught by those with a poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes. So, when Prabhupada went to Russia in 1971, he met Professor Katoshky, one professor there in Moscow, and he was professor of Asian studies. And Prabhupada was speaking to him about, when we leave the body, we take another body. And the professor said to Prabhupada, he said, "Oh, Swamiji, at the time of death, everything is finished." So materialistic people, they're thinking like that at the time of death, everything is finished. But there are other people who have knowledge of the soul, the self, the life, the living force in the body. So they understand differently. However, Prabhupada warns about thinking ourselves to be formless. That we have they think, we have taken this form now, this is illusion. But ultimately, we're all without form, we have no form. Or they're thinking, ultimately, we will become one, we'll enter into the Brahman. So this is ignorance of the foolish people. Right? Different philosophies are there. Some people are teaching impersonalism or oneness, and others are teaching void. So Prabhupada's mission, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, right? Gauravani Pricharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshat. Preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya to defeat impersonalism and voidism. Voidism, that ultimately everything is nothing. These bogus philosophies. So Lord Chaitanya's teachings defeat these arguments. We'll go ahead. Someone else please read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
In the material world, material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating variety of bodies for the living being according to their propensity for sense gratification. The living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite suitable for eating stool, that of a hog. Similarly, one who wants to eat the flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool. Even in the most aboriginal state, human teeth are so made that they can chew and cut fruits and vegetables. Although there are two canine teeth, so that primitive human can eat flesh if they so desire. Hare Krishna.
So it seems like, there's some facility for us to eat meat because Krishna has given us these canine teeth. So the canine teeth are used to tear the meat and flesh. So it seems like it's okay for us to eat meat. Right? What would you say? What would you say?
No, Maharaj. We have enough, and Prabhupada mentioned you have enough grains and vegetables where we can give nutrition to our body.
Well, sometimes just to get some, nice taste. People like the taste of blood, we eat the meat. So, after all, he gave us the teeth. If we don't eat the meat, then we don't use these two canine teeth. He gave us the canine teeth, we should use them, right? What do you say?
I don't know, Maharaj.
Maharaj, it is only if it is for primitive men, if they desire only, Maharaj. Otherwise, actually, it is not required for this age. Because we are Annagat Pran and we should have only Anna.
We should have only what?
Anna, that is grains and.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we have grains and we have fruit and we have vegetables and we can have a bit of meat as well.
No, Maharaj, that is then as a, of course, a devotee certainly, because as a mercy, actually, we cannot have that. But when the question of canine comes in, then it is only for the primitive, those human beings for which they were eating the flesh and all those. Because when they were in the jungle and actually nothing was available, they were eating the flesh at that time. So that's the only reason why canine teeth still exist. But for a civilization, never.
Yes.
But the desire should not be there, Maharaj. My opinion is okay. Once we have given the vows to our Guru, actually, then we don't have to have any desire, that we will have the higher taste, then the lower taste, we will never go to it.
Yes, that's true. If one, of course, I mean, like we said before, it's not just the business of Guru to get us to give up meat. That should happen even in the very beginning of our Krishna consciousness. That should be there.
Yes.
To give up the meat. Guru is to bring us onto higher consciousness. But if we're still eating meat, then how is it possible? People still eating meat, they cannot awaken higher consciousness because their consciousness is so covered that they have to eat flesh of animals. Yeah. Devotees of Krishna, of course, we eat food which is offered in sacrifice. And we cannot sacrifice the animal like this. We don't do animal sacrifices in the Kali Yuga.
Yes.
The only sacrifice we do is
Sankirtan Yajna.
Sankirtan Yajna, right? That's the real sacrifice, the chanting of the holy names. So Lord Krishna himself is a vegetarian, and we only offer the pure foods to Krishna, and we take what is offered to Krishna. So we have no need for the meat, fish, and these. But as you say, some people, they're not so civilized, they're less cultured, they're not devotees, they're not following spiritual practice, so they can take the meat if they have to. Right? They may do it, they may eat when the animal dies, they may wait for the animal to die and then they eat the meat. Okay, that's up to them. But devotees, we don't want. Okay, we'll go ahead.
Maharaj, one query, please.
Yes, some inquiry there?
Yes, Maharaj. Just a query. For the sake of the argument, if someone quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Krishna says, only patram pushpam phalam toya. He does not forbids for meat eating. Then he only speaks about, he accepts patram pushpam phalam toyam. Then why meat is forbidden? This for the sake of argument. Some non-devotee can put this question. And also one of the preaching Srila Prabhupada in Western audiences, he says that if at all you want to eat meat, don't eat beef. You can eat other meat. So how do we understand and how do we defeat this argument with more Shastric knowledge or proof? Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Well, yes, certainly we don't eat the beef. The cow is the most sacred animal. That's our mother. So we don't eat the beef. We don't approve that if somebody eats a cow, then they get heavy reactions. They have to take birth for every hair on the body of the cow and be killed. Right? You want to eat the meat? There's a proper way to eat the meat. You go before the goddess Kali on the full moon night, and you tell the goddess, in front of the goddess Kali, you can sacrifice a goat, not a cow, but a goat. And you tell the goat that because I want to eat meat, I'm going to kill you, but in the future you can kill me, right? Mamsa, mamsa, I and you. And so I'm killing you, in the future you can come and kill me. So that's what's happening when people want to eat meat. They eat meat, they should follow it, they do it the proper way, a religious way. You want sense gratification, you want to eat meat, so you do it like that, in front of Goddess Kali. On the full moon night, means once in a month, not every night, once in a month only. On the on the dark moon night it is, the dark, not the full moon, the dark moon night. So dark moon night means once in the month, and that way then you can eat the meat. But because you're going to be killed in the future. So an intelligent person will think, why should I do like that if in the future I'm going to be killed? I'm just going to give myself so much misery, so much suffering. So an intelligent person will think like that. So there's no scriptural injunction where one can eat the beef or cow. Cow is the most sacred animal. This next to the human being. The soul in the cow will become the human being in the next life. So it's very sinful to kill the cow. And we also tell people that devotee will eat food offered in sacrifice. So I said the goat, you take the goat in front of the goddess Kali once in the month. And that way you can eat meat for 1 month. Every month you can come on the dark moon night and sacrifice the goat. But you're going to be killed. So we explain to people the reality, the facts of the situation. What do you think?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead.
Maharaj, one small query, please. Again.
Yes.
Maharaj, it is said that devotee with incomplete devotional service, if he has some fall down or if he get drifted, in the next birth he will be still awarded with a higher birth in Brahmin, devotee Brahmin family or Vaishya family. And now person is given that birth like that, and that too in India, and that too maybe in the Goddess around Mayapur. And he is Brahmin, and still why they go for the non-vegetarian eating? They are not able to come out of that. They are considered to be the high-level devotees in earlier birth, like if they are born in that area also. Sorry
Yes.
for my question.
Because they're Naradama. They're Naradama, they're the lowest. They have the opportunity, they have the good birth, they have the culture, but they don't want to take advantage. So, everyone has independence, everyone has free will. It's up to everybody how they use that independence, how they use their free will. If they want to eat everything, then facility is there. They can do it. But next life they'll become a hog. Next life they'll be given the body like the dog or the tiger so that they can eat that. Because they desire to eat everything. So next life they'll get the animal body to facilitate that. So these people are so foolish. They don't want to surrender to Krishna. So they get the result. The result is they don't need a human body. They get the animal body. They're put into the lower species of life and they remain there birth after birth. They'll take birth again and again. Somehow they were given a good birth. Somehow they got a good chance. They were born in a good family. They were born maybe in the Brahmana family, maybe near the Dham. They had the opportunity. They did not take advantage. They didn't care. So next life, they won't get the opportunity. Next life, they'll be put into the lower species of life. The material world is like that. You go up and down, like a roller, what is it called? Like some roller coaster. Okay. You go up, you come up, and then you go falling down, right? So like that. Prabhupada told the story. Punar Mustika Baba, again become a mouse. The little mouse became, by the grace of the yogi, became a cat, then it became a dog, then it became a tiger, then it became a mouse again. So people are like that. They get the good birth, and then they go down, and then they come up and get another good birth, and then go down. They're always staying in the material world, conditioned souls. They have that freedom. Krishna doesn't force.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, we'll go ahead. In the material world, Prabhu, Prabhu can read. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity.
No, in the material world. Oh no, okay, you're right, yeah. But in any case, right, sorry.
But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. They change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies one after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable life to worm life, from worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to the human form. The highest developed form is this human form, when it is possessed of a full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up the material body, which will be turned to ashes, and allow the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pran vayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahma Randha, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occurs only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere, where he can develop a completely different type of body, a spiritual body, which never has to meet death or change. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So Prabhupada talks about evolution, right? The cycle of evolution, a living entity changes from one body to another. So did you study evolution when you were at school?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh.
It's a Charles Darwin theory is also speaking something about this, and Srila Prabhupada also quoting somewhere something related to Charles Darwin.
So, was Darwin right?
So, no, Charles Darwin was not right. But so, with little understanding, we may confuse with this that Srila Prabhupada also is advocating Charles Darwin. For the non-devotees, it will become difficult in my little understanding, Maharaj.
Yes, Darwin was a theory, right?
Yes, Maharaj, that was theory.
It was a theory. There was no proof. He was trying to prove it. He was trying to show it, you know, but there was no real proof. They were all they talk about things like the missing links. Right? They talk about the missing links. They think if they find the missing links, then this will prove that the evolution, that we evolved from the lower species, right? What is the evolution theory actually? What's the teaching?
The teaching that life begins in the water, and then gradually it was vegetation, the plants, and then worms, and then some form of animal without tail, like fishes and all, and then
So where did the human being come from?
So human being, that the Charles Darwin evolution theory suggests that first it was with tail, and gradually it became without tail. So this was the theory postulated, it's a long back by Charles Darwin, and many people tend to believe, but we try to give the examples of our Lord Krishna's avatara, right from Varaha, and then Narasimha, and like that.
Yeah, so we explain that there is evolution, but it's not that the body is changing, but what's happening? The consciousness is changing. There's evolution of consciousness. So the species are all there, but the soul is evolving. The consciousness is evolving from lower species to higher species. So it's not that one species changed into another. They say we came from the ape, right? Darwin's theory said our ancestors were the monkeys.
Yes, Maharaj.
But the monkeys are still here, and the people are here. And we don't see any monkeys becoming people. But they talk about it, they say like that, but we don't see any evidence of the evolution. So it was just a theory. It was a theory to promote atheism, to encourage people to be atheistic, because they didn't like that you should believe in God. They didn't like that you should believe in the soul. They wanted people to forget all this. So they promote these atheistic theories. So countries where atheism is very prominent, they will promote this evolution. But we preach about evolution of the soul, evolution of the consciousness. From animal consciousness, we human consciousness. And from the human consciousness, then we can go into spiritual consciousness, to the spiritual world. All right, we will like the Mataji's to read. Mataji's.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Here in the material world, material nature forces the living entity to change his body due to his different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigod. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different stages. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in a body of a hog or in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to the Bhagavad Gita 7.19, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord after many, many lifetimes of culturing knowledge. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcel of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahma Jyotir. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so why does one have to fall down from the Brahma Jyoti? If they enter in the Brahma Jyoti, why do they have to come back? Why do they fall down from there? Prabhupada says, indeed one must fall down, even if he has become one with the Brahma Jyoti. So Brahma Jyoti is a liberated platform. So why will the man fall down from that position?
In Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter, it is stated, Maharaj, that Ab Brahman Bhuvanan Lokan.
Maybe Prabhu there can help you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. It is from the text given by Krishna, like Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetyatu Kante Punarjanma Na Vidyate. So, like, even from the highest material world, that is Brahma Loka, till the ground, till the Patal Loka, one has to again, after finishing their term, one has to again fall down. That is, he has to come back to this material world again. So there is the circle of birth and death continues even up to Brahma Loka. That is where it is like, and in Brahma Jyoti, what will happen is, Maharaj, in Brahma Jyoti, the person who is the believer of one who is a believer of voidism, or one who is Nirakar Nirvisheshwadi. So, the person who reaches Brahma Jyoti also, he does not have any activity there to do, and ultimately then he falls down.
Right, that's the right point, because there's no engagement, no activity on the platform of Brahman.
Yes,
and the soul's nature is to be active. Yes. The soul needs activity. If there's no activity, then this is not, for some time we like it. For some time we like it. You get a holiday. But if you've no work at all, then very boring, nothing to do. We like engagement, we like activity. And so that's why we come to Krishna consciousness. There's no retirement in Krishna consciousness. Even in old age, we keep working. We see Prabhupada, 80, he's still working, writing and traveling, preaching. So like that, for the soul, there needs to be proper engagement. So on the Brahma Jyoti, they stop all activities. So no engagement, no activity, no relationships. So that's why they fall down, because no real pleasure there. And we want pleasure, we like pleasure. Just like Krishna. Krishna is Anandamaya Bayasat. He wants pleasure. We also want pleasure. And if we don't get pleasure in the Brahma Jyoti, then we come back to the material world to find it. Okay. We'll go ahead. Maharaji, another Maharaji can read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
As we have learned from previous mantra, The Brahma Jyotir emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with the full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being. For under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahma Jyotir does not represent mature knowledge. Only by surrendering unto the Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service does one reach the highest perfectional stage. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we're hearing about the Brahma Jyoti from previous mantras. Brahma Jyoti emanating from the transcendental body is full of spiritual sparks. So there's living entities there in the Brahma Jyoti, and they have their own individual identity, but they're there in the Brahma Jyoti with no engagement, just in that mode of oneness. So then Prabhupada describes, sometimes we want to enjoy the senses. So that's natural. We have senses, we want to use them. Therefore, they're placed in the material world. But we can enjoy, you see, the fallen living entities, they're put in the material world to become Lord of the material nature, to try to become the Lord. Prabhupada said to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. So because they haven't got control over the mind and senses, they become controlled by the senses. The desire for lording over the material nature, the desire for lording is the material disease of the living being. So material disease, you see, there's a disease. Under the spell of sense enjoyment, transmigrates through the various bodies, immersed, manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahma Jyoti does not represent mature knowledge. So what is mature knowledge then? If becoming one with the Brahma Jyoti is not mature knowledge, what is mature knowledge?
Knowing about the Lord's Bhagavan form, Maharaj.
Yes. So what do we have to do?
We should surrender onto the spiritual master and then keep on chanting the Lord's name. And when at the time of the death, Antakalicha Mamyeva Smaran Mukta Kalevaram, then we can reach to the abode of Lord Krishna's Goloka.
Yeah, if we're able to chant at the time of death, very good. Right? We have to practice. We have to cultivate that kind of consciousness, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So lording over is the material disease. How is it just in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about this material disease, right? What is this disease? How was it compared in earlier mantras? Remember, we talked about the fever. The living entity has a fever.
Fever.
Prabhupada gave the example. He said, just like man has got a fever.
Malaria.
Yes, Maharaj, temperature. So to control the temperature doesn't mean to completely make the temperature zero.
Yes.
But you should to get out of this material diseases, you should engage under the service of the Lord to please the Lord. Then the disease will go.
Right. We don't want to increase the fever, right?
Yes,
We've got a fever. We don't want to increase it more. We want to bring the fever down to the healthy condition. You don't want to make it zero, but you do want to bring it to the healthy condition.
Yes.
Right? So that's the idea, to come to the healthy condition by the prescribed methods of living and acting in this material world. We have to remember, cultivate both. What? We have to cultivate both sides.
Both
We
knee
spoke
science
of,
and transcendental knowledge. Both knee science and the culture of knowledge marriage. Both.
yes, nescience and the
Knowledge
culture
and
of knowledge, right? Or vidya and avidya.
Avidya.
We have to cultivate them side by side, right? That's good. So we have the balanced program to cultivate both by Krishna conscious activities. Right? We don't say, Krishna didn't tell Arjuna, stop, you don't work, I'll do everything. Krishna told Arjuna, fight. But he also told Arjuna, remember me and fight. And so we have to do duty, we have to work. We can't think, oh, don't do anything. Some people think Krishna consciousness means be idle, do nothing. But no, have to be active in the service of Krishna. This is required. So that's the balanced program. Okay, we'll go ahead. Prabhu can read now. Anybody not read, like to read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj,
yes.
In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relinquishes his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with a full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body. Consequently, he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirmed the truth. Yam yam vabi smaran bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tame vaidi kaundeya sada sadbhava bhavide. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kundi, that state he will attain without fail. Thus, the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you. So, Prabhupada is describing how at the time of death, our mind, our mental condition will determine where we go in the next life.
We have to remember Krishna when the end of the time. So we will go to Krishna Loka.
So, Prabhupada, well, then in this prayer, in this mantra, it describes how the devotee prays to remember my activities and sacrifices.
Hare Krishna.
Right? Have you done a lot of sacrifices?
Not that much, Maharaj.
Because the material body is going to be burned into ashes.
Yes, Maharaj.
So before we give up the body, we make this kind of prayer at the time of death, right? That our past deeds, we remember our past deeds, and we also think about the future, where we want to go. The one who's completely under the rule of material nature, he remembers all the sinful things he did. He remembers all the meat and intoxication and the gambling and everything, all the bad sinful things he performed. It's all there in his mind. And so the result is, what will happen to him?
He will go down, maybe in Yamaloka or another body.
Maybe he'll go to Yamaraj, maybe he'll take some other body, maybe an animal body or something.
Body.
Yeah. So we were hearing the other day about Nala Kuvera and Mani Griva, because this is Damodar month. We're worshipping Lord Damodar. So Nala Kuvera and Mani Griva, you know who they were? Have you heard their names?
Yes, Maharaj.
Who were they?
Kubera's two sons.
Right. Kuvera's two sons. So they were very rich.
Yes.
And they were very handsome, very good looking young men, and but they were very stupid. And they became very drunk, and they were having sense gratification. So the result, what they became next life?
To plant.
Yeah, what kind of plant?
Yamalarjuna.
Yeah, Yamalarjuna trees. Yeah, big trees. They had to stand for 100 years of the demigods in the body of trees. So they remembered how they'd been demigods, and then they became trees. And similarly, Jad Bharat was just a little careless. Bharat Maharaj, not Jad Bharat, but Bharat Maharaj was in Himalayas. He was up there in Himalayas, and he helped to save a young deer. But he became very attached to the deer, and at the time of death he thought of the deer. So he became a deer in the next life. So he had to waste 2 more births. He had to take birth as a deer, and then he had to take birth again in a Brahmana family. So he had 2 extra births. So we don't want to take that risk, to take another birth, take birth again. We want to try to get perfection in this life. Prabhupada wants all of us to become Krishna conscious in this life. Prabhupada would say, don't give me trouble. Don't have me come back just to deliver you. Become Krishna conscious now in this life. Get perfection. So if we do the proper things regularly, hear and chant, cultivate remembrance of Krishna, then time of death it will become very easy.
Spiritual world, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes? What did you say, Prabhu?
He will go to spiritual world, Maharaj.
Yes, right. He can go to spiritual world. If he cultivates properly, if he does everything the right way, you know, regular, every day you have to chant, you have to take prasadam, you have to, you know, worship Krishna, offer obeisances to Krishna like that, then naturally, the end of life, Krishna will remember us. It is stated in the Puranas, it said, what happens if a devotee cannot remember Krishna at the time of death? And the answer is given, he said, if the devotee cannot remember Krishna, Krishna will remember him.
Krishna will remember.
But
correct,
don't take that risk. Don't take that risk, you know. Somebody may say, oh, good, Krishna will remember me. I don't need to worry. No, we don't know what kind of devotee we are. We don't know what condition we're going to be in when we leave the body. We don't know. So it's not always so easy that we can remember Krishna. But in special situations, Krishna can remember the devotee and deliver him. Okay, we'll go ahead. Someone else read?
Yes, Maharaj, Dandapana Maharaj, Tribanga Gopal Das.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material distress. And consequently, he cannot enter into spiritual kingdom of the spiritual body. The devotees, however, develop a sense of love for Godhead by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if at the time of death, a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer gives the remind to the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee.
Jai. So this is Krishna's kindness. But don't take the risk. Don't give Krishna extra work. If we can remember Krishna ourselves, that's the best. Right?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes.
Dandavat Pranam at your divine lotus feet. In this, can I share one of the from Varahapuran? Krishna said another sloka like that. I remember.
Okay.
Krishna said in Varahapurana, Yadi vadati na doshena mad bhakto mamana chat smaret aham smarami mad bhakta nayami paramam gati. Translation is, if my devotee is unable to remember me at the time of death because of disturbance felt within the body at that time, then I shall remember my devotee and take him back to my supreme abode. This is means my own way of meaning of translation. Yadi vadati doshena mad bhakto mamacharet smaret aham smarami mad bhakto nayami param gatim.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very well.
That's what is it? Varaha Purana?
Yeah, it's Varaha Purana. Yadi vadatina doshena smaret aham smarami mad bhakto nayami param gatim. If
So
he cannot remember,
Prabhupada is paraphrasing that there in his purport here. Same thing. We know in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Kuntiya pratijanahi nam me bhakta pranashyati. My devotee will never perish. So devotees surrender to Krishna. It depends on Krishna. It doesn't depend on his own efforts. It depends on Krishna. It's in Krishna's hands. We surrender to Krishna. Well, go ahead. Mataji can read, please. Who hasn't read? Someone from the ladies?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30-34. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly, because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of low birth, women, Vaishyas, as well as Shudras, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
Okay, so Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavad Gita here, 9th chapter. Very important statements. How Krishna promises to deliver his devotee. Devotees surrender to Krishna, and Krishna delivers them. Krishna delivers us from this material world. So it mentions that somebody may be even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, that means somehow he has some habit which he's not able to immediately give up. But he hates himself for it. But somehow he's doing these things. He's got this bad habit. So he feels very bad. But still he doesn't want to give up devotional service. But at the same time, he's very entangled with the bad habit. And he can't give up his bad habit. So Krishna makes arrangements to help this devotee to get free of his attachment. Srila Prabhupada was in Jakarta, and there was one man there. He said to Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, I love Krishna very much, but I love wine also. So Prabhupada told him, he said, when you drink the wine, you should think, this is the taste of Krishna. Rasoham apso konteya. Krishna said, I am the taste in water, the taste in liquid. So he said, when you drink that, you simply think of Krishna. This will help you gradually to give up. So like that, people have bad habits, but Krishna is very kind. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur will explain. Who would like to read more? Prabhu can read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains these verses in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the saints, even though such a devotee may seem to be duracharo, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word sudurachara. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of the body and again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activity is executed in one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs action in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of his body. The proportion of the activities for maintenance of the body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in the devotional service. As long as the proportion of the devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long because by the grace of Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is the only right path. If one is on the right path, even an occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Oh, so very important information given here. Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur about this balance, right? Self-realization and also our duties in material life, maintenance of the body, right? So what should be the arrangement? How should we balance them?
Even when we just perform our material duties in order to make sure that we can sustain the life and we can maintain our prescribed duties, but we should parallelly continue the devotional service, and after a certain stage probably Lord himself will guide us to raise the level of devotional service and diminish the level of material attachments, and other prescribed duty will gradually and responsibility will gradually get reduced in life. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, right. In the beginning, we need both. We need to devote a good amount of time to maintain our material life, but we also need to give some time for our spiritual practice. Right? We give the example: the train goes on 2 tracks in India, anyway. 2 tracks, right? If the tracks are not level, turn over. So you want to keep the tracks level, means don't neglect your material life, and at the same time don't neglect your spiritual life. You have to have a balance, proper balance. But then gradually, as we get, particularly, we get older, you get retired, you can come back to India, maybe you come and stay in the Holy Dham, Mayapur or Vrindavan, you give up the material job, then you can go fully into devotional service, right? Because we're older, we're ready to give up the material duties, you're not going to have more children, you're settled in family life, and you can devote yourself more fully to spiritual practice, because we have to prepare for the next life, right? Yes. But Prabhupada explains, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, that it's until we take up the devotional service more fully, there can be the tendency, a chance to some exhibition of worldliness. What is that? Could you give an example, Prabhu?
Very well.
Yes.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaja's one song at this very prominent. Should I lyrics it? Try to sing.
Well, just tell us what he said. What he says. Just tell us the translation.
Translation is: I have surrendered everything, my life at your lotus feet. You have given this family as your servant. I am earning and I am taking care of them so they can do your devotional service. So,
okay.
And Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj also says in that bhajan that I am like a dog who has to take care always the master. And so similarly, I am your servant, and my duty only to surrender myself or give everything at your lotus feet. Nothing belongs to me. On your behalf, I am doing only my duty.
All right, but I want to hear, what is this meaning? He talks about worldliness. If somebody exhibits some worldliness, would you tell me?
You didn't understand the word exactly. What you said? You emphasize the word.
Let somebody else answer. The person who was reading, let him
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
The worldliness is a shift of gear onto mundane other activities without having any devotional service performed, and slowly slipping our path into the single track of making our life imbalanced onto purely material activities. We may end up doing a lot of abominable activities, Sudhirachara.
Yeah.
In case we just lower down
what kind of abominable activities?
We may end up in not following those spiritual principles of regulative principles, things like that.
Yes, we may become, worldliness means we get very absorbed in our material body, and maybe you spend the whole night just watching movies, television, or some cricket match or something. We get very absorbed in these kind of mundane things which have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. Very far away. So this is worldliness. It could be also politics. When some you know, like that Jayalalitha, when she was the governor there in Tamil Nadu, when she died, you know, it was a big thing, you know, and one man I know who was very devoted, you know, he got, wow, it became, you know, he got so absorbed in the news, it became such a big thing, you know, everybody to hear the whole thing, what happened, and all the different people involved and everything. You know, I totally forgot about Krishna, you know, became, you know, we get these kind of things happen, you know, worldliness. We get very absorbed in the material world. You know, we're thinking about COVID-19 as well. You know, this is also a big issue and people are really into it. And what is the figures today and how many more people have got it now and how many countries have, and what is the figures and how many are dying and how many are recovering. And we get very absorbed in all these things. And so we forget about Krishna consciousness. So this is worldliness, forgetfulness of Krishna, as you said. You know, and there are so many ways to forget Krishna. So we have to always be careful, try to bring the mind back. Wherever the mind wanders, bring it back to Krishna. All right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that worldliness will soon go by the grace of the Lord. Imperfections will come to an end very shortly. So this is the power of devotional service. So long as we keep up our devotional service, then these imperfections will soon be removed. All right, we'll go ahead. Maraji can read now. Facilities.
Krishna Maharaj, all the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. Oh, that paragraph, sorry. The facilities of devotional service are denied the impersonalist because they are attached to the Brahma Jyoti feature of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantras, they cannot penetrate the Brahma Jyoti because they do not believe in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly word jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue the fruitless labor as confirmed in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita 12.5.
Okay, so the impersonalists, they don't get to go into the spiritual planets, right? They can go to the Brahma Jyoti.
Yes, Maharaj.
Right? But why can't they go to Krishna Loka? Why can't they come to see Krishna?
Because they don't believe the personal form of the Lord. They believe
Right.
light.
Yeah, because they're not devotees, right? They have no devotion.
Yes, Maharaj.
They have no devotion, so they have no interest even to see Krishna. They simply want the oneness. They want the light. They just go into the light, you know. Like they're thinking this is enjoyment, to go into that great light, that oneness of the light. So this is confirmed in 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 12.5. Who knows the verse? Impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor.
Shloka verse 5 Kleshodhikastarastepsham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham deha vidgabra vapyate. And translation of the shloka is, for those whose mind are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Mm-hmm. Yes. they advance, they make progress very slowly with great difficulty, because they're meditating on being unembodied. But we are embodied, we have a body, but they're meditating on being one, or giving up the individuality. So they're meditating on something beyond their experience. So klesha, just trouble, so many troubles they get in the path of realization. And ultimately, they go, if they get liberation to Brahmajyoti, they can't stay there, they come back again. They can't remain. Okay, we'll go ahead. Prabhu can read.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the absolute truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. This one, first is hearing about the Lord, second is glorifying the Lord, third is remembering the Lord, fourth is serving the lotus feet of the Lord, fifth is worshipping the Lord, sixth is offering prayers to the Lord, seventh is serving the Lord, eighth enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and 9 surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with the God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaja Parikshit, the hero of the Srimad Bhagavatam, attains the desired result. Second, just by glorifying the Lord, Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection. Number 3, by praying to the Lord, Akrura attained the desired result. Number 4, by remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaja attained the result. Number 5, by worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. Number 6, by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, attained perfection. 7, by rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. Number 8, through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. Number 9, by surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaja Bali attained the desired result. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, so 9 processes of devotional service. Prabhupada said, we can do one or we can do all, right? Who did all of them?
Ambarish Maharaj.
Right, Ambarish Maharaj. So, if somebody says, well, I want to be the friend of the Lord, is that okay?
Yeah, that does okay, I think. But he should be like a perfect in the one activities.
Yeah, we have to begin by hearing and chanting. First of all, hearing, and then we hear nicely, then we can repeat, chanting. And when we do hearing and chanting, then remembrance will come. But if we try to surrender everything, that's very difficult. Who can do that? That's not easy to do at all, to surrender everything. We're not ready for that. You have to be on the level of Raga Bhakti. You have to be very advanced to surrender everything. And similarly also to become Krishna's friend. That's not so easy. You have to be very pure. You have to also be like Raga Bhakti. Not like the cowherd boys. What was the qualification of the cowherd boys to be Krishna's friends?
They simply think that Krishna is the friend.
Yeah, but what was their qualification to take birth as friends of Krishna? They'd done pious activities over many lifetimes. Krita Punya Punja. right? It was stated there in the verse that they performed pious activities over many lifetimes. And so that's why they were able to be with Krishna as his friend. And similarly, Arjuna. Arjuna is not an ordinary person. You know, he's with Krishna. Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita to him because he's a devotee and he's Krishna's friend. So these two processes are more difficult, becoming the friend and surrendering everything. But hearing and chanting, they're the root of the creeper of the, they're very important. And we're encouraged to really nourish these two, to take part as much as we can in these two activities. And gradually the other processes come. As we hear more, then we know how to offer prayers, and we can recite the prayers. We learn how to worship the Lord. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord, that can be different things. That can be things like worshipping Tulsi, and also going to the holy dham and doing parikrama in the holy dham, taking part in the parikrama. This is all serving the lotus feet of the Lord and serving the pure devotees of the Lord, because they have taken shelter at the feet of the Lord. So if you serve the pure devotees, it's like serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And becoming a servant. Well, Hanuman, he's a personal servant of the Lord. But we can become a servant, maybe not so personal, but at a distance. All of us, we do service. Devotional service is very important. It is said if we don't have a taste for hearing, then we do more service. And by doing service, we get blessing, we get purification, we become more qualified to hear. So it's good for us to do service as much as we can. Okay, we'll go ahead. Who would like to read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Danda Pranam. Actually, the explanation of this mantra and of practically all the mantras of the Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra is explained in the questions and answers between Maharaja Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami at the very beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the signs of God is the basic principle of devotional life. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaja Parikshit and chanted by Shukadeva Goswami. Maharaja Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva because Sukadeva was a greater spiritual master than any great yogi or transcendentalist of his time. Maharaja Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, specifically at the time of death? And Sukadeva Goswami answered, Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Harihi Shrodovyaha Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Chadabhyayam. Everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties and the super soul of all living entities. Bhagavatam 2.1.5.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the explanation of this mantra and of all the mantras is summarized in Vedanta Sutra and explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can see all the scriptures are related. The Vedanta Sutra, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and here the Isopanisad. They're all teaching. Prabhupada said these mantras are explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. So then Prabhupada talks about how in the Srimad Bhagavatam, It's about questions and answers. Bhagavad Gita also, we've got Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna's asking the questions and Krishna's answering. And you see sometimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you've got Lord Chaitanya asking questions to Ramananda Roy. So the scriptures are generally like that, questions and answers, hearing and chanting. So it's very good to spend our time in this way discussing the scriptures. So Prabhupada explains the importance of hearing. Then he quotes one of Maharaj Parikshit's questions, because Maharaj Parikshit's going to die. So he said, what is my duty about? I'm about to die. And what is the duty of every man? Because we don't know when we're going to have to die. So it's the same for everyone. And the verse is given, very nice verse. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari. Right? The duty of everyone to be free from all anxieties. Because we're all anxious, especially at the time of death. We're going to be very anxious. But if we hear and glorify and remember Krishna, then all the anxieties can be overcome. Krishna is the director of everything. So he can free us from all the anxiety. Certainly, material world, so much anxiety is there. But if we hear about Krishna, then we can overcome all these difficulties. Okay? Someone else like to read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Can I read out?
Please.
So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping. Everyone who has desired to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties, and the supreme and super soul of all living entities. So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about personality of Godhead or to inquire about him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, preliminary by declaring him to be impersonal, that is without sense perceptions. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that Lord is a sentient being and a supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of worldly politicians and so-called big man in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. See, Upanishad directs us towards such godly activities. Should I finish the last 3 lines?
Okay, go ahead.
Very well. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death, when the body is dislocated? And how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the sense. One has to learn his art by employing the sense in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the result of such practice at that time of death.
Okay. So it was stated there, Om Kratos Smara, Kratam Smara, Kratos Smara, Kratam Smara. Right? With the devotees praying, please remember all my sacrifices. Because you are ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So this human life is an opportunity for us Of course, Krishna doesn't need our service. It's not that we can really do anything for him, but we have an opportunity to try to do something worthwhile with this body. Krishna doesn't need us, but he's giving us a chance in the form of this Krishna consciousness movement, that we can all take up this Krishna consciousness movement, chanting Hare Krishna and reading the books, learning about Krishna and appreciating Krishna, worshipping Krishna in the home, offering the foods to him like that. It's a big change, and it makes such a difference at the time of death. When the devotee leaves the body, devotee is not in difficulty. Because devotee knows what's happening. He knows he's used his life in the service of Krishna. So when he gives up the body, he knows he's going on to serve Krishna some other place. We serve Krishna here. Next life, we go on and serve Krishna some other place. So it's not a problem for a devotee to leave the body. But one who is not a devotee, who hasn't done anything, he hasn't used their life, then they have a big problem. Then they're very afraid, they're very fearful. But if we make proper use of this life, we have nothing to fear. Krishna's there. Just like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was there, and he was at Badarik Ashram, and the Vishnu Dudas came. At that time, he just stood on the head of death personified. So when death comes before us, we just stand on the head of death personified, get in the aeroplane, the Vaikuntha aeroplane, and go off. You don't have to worry. Just take shelter of Krishna. All right, any question? Anybody?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaji.
Maharaj, you said these Gopas, because of the pious activities in their previous life, they had the chance to become Krishna's friend.
Yes.
So I just want to know what are those pious activities actually mean?
Well, pious activity, just like in Bhagavad Gita, it says also, Yesham Twantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam. That to take up devotional service, we have to have acted piously. So what are these pious activities? These pious activities, there are different levels of piety, you see. There's pious activities on the material platform. There's pious activities on the level of Brahman, and there's pious activities in relation to devotees. So these pious activities are Bhakti Unmuli Sukriti. When we perform pious activities in relation to a devotee, that gives us the greatest benefit. We get the greatest benefit when we're able to perform some activities in the service of devotees.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
All right, we want to...
Maharaj, here I have, can I request you something to further to enlighten me? Very well, thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, there is a difference between pious activities, Punya Karma, or pious activities and spiritual activities. Pious activities also can be nullified in the way of doing some philanthropical job. That is also pious activities. But pious activities doesn't take or doesn't engage us with Krishna, which is a spiritual activities does it. But in this context, when you explain the pious activities, what you said, because of previous pious activities, they become Gopas, a friend of Krishna. How that is, these pious activities get differentiated from just now what we what other way pious activities definition we know.
Yes, well, I mentioned that it has to be devotion. Their pious activity, their piety has to all be in relation to devotees.
Yes.
And devotional service. Then that is actual Bhakti Anmuli Sukriti. And that qualifies one to actually become one of the friends of Krishna. You can understand that they have to have been, they have to be very pure souls. They have to be very, very advanced devotees and they have to be very, very pious. They did a lot of service. Now it's just like gopis. There are many different levels of gopis. And so you don't get immediately to become one of the intimate associates of Krishna, but you serve from a distance. Just like maybe you get a job in the palace to serve the king. You don't get immediately to go and serve the king. The people serving the king are the most experienced, the most loyal, the most trusted servants. So the people who are most intimate with Krishna or with the gopis, they're the most intimate, the most experienced ones. And other ones, they're newer. They're in a distance. They're learning from a distance. They work under other gopis. The gopis, they're all in groups, and they have group leaders, just like our Bhakti Brikshas. You have a group leader, and and the group leader helps us, and there's people over the group leaders. So similarly like that with the gopis and with the cowherd boys, not that you immediately get to go very close and be with Krishna. You have to gradually qualify for that intimate relationship. And the qualification is devotional service. The more you're able to do devotional service, the more you're able to give pleasure to Krishna by our service, then the more we become qualified.
Maharaj, then is it recommended to in Golok Vrindavana be with Krishna and serve him, or in this material world serve Guru and Krishna and devotees?
No difference. You serve Guru and Krishna in this world, it's no different from serving Krishna in the spiritual world. Yeah, because it said the one who is the servant of Krishna's devotees, he's the most fortunate because he's getting the greatest mercy. To be the servant of the devotee is the greatest fortune.
Hare Krishna. Very well.
As Krishna says, worship of Vishnu is the greatest, but even greater than the worship of Vishnu is those things in relation to Vishnu. So when we become the servant of Krishna's devotees, then that wins us we get a lot of merit, we get a lot of special sukriti, a lot of punya, and really helps us to make great spiritual advancement. But it's not very easy to become the servant of a devotee, because devotees, they don't like to take service. They won't allow you. They say, no. Very difficult. So, okay, we have to stop here. We will meet this evening.
Okay, thank you.
What time are we meeting?
4 o'clock, Maharaj, Bahrain time.
4 o'clock.
Means 6:30.
6:30 Indian time.
6:30.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Krishna Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Bhakti Narasimha Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai.